They say betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from family, but what if the traitor is the one you let call you sister? I remember the moment I felt life slip from my fingers, not from age, not from disease, but from the treachery of a young woman I once loved as my own. My body is half paralyzed now, my left hand curled uselessly against my side, and my speech slurred from the stroke that should have killed me. But God left me alive for a reason. My name is Eleanor Wright. I'm 68. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's 5 years ago, and 2 years after that, I suffered the stroke. At first, I thought it was just life, just aging. But no, it was her. It all began when Clara entered our home. She was my husband's co-worker's niece, just 29, bright-eyed, polite, full of praises. She called me Sister Eleanor and made me feel young again with her endless energy and affection. I had no daughter of my own, just one estranged son living overseas, and she filled a space I didn't know was hollow. She brought me tea, helped me dress, laughed with me, told me how lucky I was to have such a loyal husband, David. But the more she helped me, the less I did for myself. At first, I welcomed it. After all, my hands shook too much to chop vegetables, and Clara loved to cook. She insisted, "Let me, Sister Eleanor," she'd smile sweetly. Then she began rearranging things in the house, saying it was for my safety. My bedroom was moved to the back of the house. My favorite porcelain teacup disappeared. And David, my husband of 41 years, he began to change too. He smiled more at her jokes than mine, lingered when she laughed. They both thought I was too old, too broken, too drugged up to notice. But even with my declining health, my eyes still saw clearly. One night I wheeled myself out of my room and found them whispering in the kitchen, her hand resting on his. She saw me and didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled. "Still up, Sister Eleanor, you shouldn't overexert yourself." And he said nothing. I told myself I was being paranoid, that maybe I was overreacting, tired, or just old. But something inside me whispered, "No, Eleanor, you're being erased." It started slowly. One day I fell in the bathroom. Clara said I must have forgotten to lock the wheels on my chair. Another time my medication dosage seemed off. I was groggier, more confused. Clara said I must have mixed up the bottles. David agreed. The final straw. The night my walker mysteriously vanished, and I had to crawl like an animal across the cold tile floor just to reach my phone. And even then, when I told them what happened, they just shared a look. And she said it again. "Sister Eleanor, are you sure you're not imagining things?" That's when I knew I wasn't crazy. I was being hunted. I started keeping notes. Notebooks hidden in the lining of my wheelchair cushion. I recorded every odd glance, every misplaced object, every moment that didn't sit right. Clara's sweetness had soured into something saccharine, too polished, too eager. I caught her watching me sometimes not with concern, but calculation, as if she were timing something. Then came the whispers. They weren't always audible sometimes, just the hum of voices behind closed doors. I'd wheel down the hallway and the murmurs would stop. Once I heard my name spoken, followed by Clara's laughter. When I opened the door, she was alone, smiling at the window. "Oh, Sister Eleanor, just talking to a friend. You scared me." I didn't trust her. But worse, I didn't trust David anymore either. He had grown distant, curt. He spoke to me like a burden, not a wife. "You need to rest more. You're confused. Don't stir up trouble." I noticed he stopped sleeping in our bedroom. He said it was because of my movements during the night, but I knew it was her. I could smell her perfume on his collar. I could see the guilt, or maybe the indifference in his eyes. And then the accidents got bolder. One afternoon, I went down the front steps in my wheelchair like always. But the ramp felt slick, unnaturally so. I slid fast, out of control, and only by luck did I crash into the hedge instead of the sidewalk. Clara came running, fake concern painted on her face. "Oh no, did you forget to put the brakes on again?" I hadn't. I knew it. And I began to suspect the oil spill I saw earlier near the porch wasn't an accident at all. But they made me feel insane. David said I was imagining things, that Clara had been nothing but helpful. He even got angrier than I'd ever seen him. "Stop accusing her," he snapped, slamming the cupboard so hard the china rattled. "You're losing your mind." No, I was losing my place. I began locking my door at night. I started spitting out the tea Clara brought me. I faked swallowing my pills and flushed them when she left the room. I stopped speaking, as much pretending to drift into a haze they both assumed was natural decline. But inside I was alert and terrified. One evening I overheard Clara speaking on the phone in the guest room. She thought I was asleep. I rolled closer, silent. Yes, soon. She's already half gone. He just needs one final push. No, not yet. When the will changes, then. I've got this. That was the night I didn't sleep. She wanted me gone, dead. Not slowly soon. And the worst part, my husband was helping her. I felt my pulse in my ears, my lungs tight in my chest. I had no one, no family, no children nearby. Just this house, my body, my wits. But even half a woman is still dangerous when you've taken everything from her. I was done playing victim. The morning of the accident was bright and calm, as if the world itself conspired to lull me into trust. Clara brought me breakfast in bed, scrambled eggs, toast, and tea. I eyed the tea first. She always insisted I drink it before it got cold. That morning she watched a little too closely. I didn't drink it. I pretended to lifting it to my lips, letting it touch, then setting it down as if in forgetfulness. She smiled. David didn't come to check on me all day. I heard his car leave, said he was heading to the bank. Alone. Odd. They had been going everywhere together lately. My gut told me something was coming. And I was right. By late afternoon, I felt dizzy, weak, my limbs sluggish even for me. I hadn't consumed anything except my own stash of protein bars the night before, except for the tea. Just one sip. Was that all it took? My heart pounded wildly. I tried to call out, but my tongue felt too thick. I slid from the bed, tried to reach my wheelchair, but my muscles refused. Everything tilted sideways. I landed hard, my cheek smacking the floor. I remember the faint smell of lavender, the sound of Clara humming in the kitchen, and then nothing. Darkness. When I opened my eyes, I was in the hospital. Tubes in my arm, the rhythmic beep of monitors beside me. I couldn't speak. A nurse leaned in and asked, "Can you blink?" I did. Once. Then again. I was alive, but barely. The doctor said it had been a stroke, another one. But I knew in my gut this was no coincidence. It was a test run. Clara wanted to see how fragile I was, how much longer I could hold on. David visited once. He stood stiffly at the foot of the bed, not touching me. "We'll figure something out for your care," he said vaguely, then left. Clara came next. She sat by my bed, clasped my cold hand, and smiled. "Oh, Sister Eleanor, you poor thing. I made your favorite soup today. When you come home, I'll take care of everything. You won't have to lift a finger." She leaned in close, whispering, "You're lucky I'm here. David's not as patient as he used to be." Then she kissed my forehead and walked out. And I cried not because of the pain in my limbs or the fear, but because I knew they'd almost won. They were taking everything, slowly, carefully, legally. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. No one stayed overnight. No one called. But that time gave me something they didn't expect. Silence, space, and time. A nurse named Claire Young and sharp-eyed started chatting with me when she did my vitals. One night I blinked in Morse code. SOS. She blinked back, confused but curious. I had an ally. It was time to prepare, because if they wanted me gone, they should have made sure I didn't get back up. Claire the nurse became my only lifeline. She was sharp, observant, and most importantly, suspicious of Clara from the start. The more I tried to communicate, the more determined she became to understand me. She brought in a letterboard. It took effort, but I spelled, "Help, she wants me dead." Claire's face went pale. "Clara," she whispered. I blinked once. "Does your husband know?" she asked. I blinked twice. Claire sat in stunned silence for a moment, then nodded. "We're going to be careful, okay? But I believe you." From that day on, Claire recorded everything. She took note of Clara's visits, how long she stayed, what she brought. I asked her slowly, painfully, to retrieve my purse from the hospital drawer. Inside was a tiny recording device. Old, but it worked. I whispered into it one night through slurred breaths, "Clara, David, kill me, will change, proof." I had nothing solid yet, but I had suspicion. And sometimes that's all you need to make someone slip. When I was discharged, Clara came to pick me up alone. She smiled the same smile I once thought was warmth, but now saw for what it was, a mask. I was weaker than before. She moved me into the back room, the guest room she called it. David was conveniently on a business trip. He wasn't. I saw his suitcase in the garage. Clara controlled everything, the meals, the medicine, the schedule. But I was recording now. Every night I kept the device on. Clara spoke to herself when she thought I was sleeping. "Almost done. Just a few more days. That lawyer better call him soon." She paced the hallway, phone in hand. "Yes, he'll sign it. She's practically a vegetable." "No, she won't say anything. She can't." Then came the slip. She left her phone on the kitchen counter one night while microwaving soup. I wheeled over silently. Thank God my right hand still worked. I opened her recordings. Audio files, one dated 2 months ago. I tapped play. Her voice hushed but clear. Just mix it in the tea. She won't know. He doesn't care anymore. Once the will's in our favor, it's done. I emailed the file to myself, sent a backup to Claire, then deleted the original. When Clara returned, I smiled, just a faint twitch of the lips. She didn't notice. That night, I didn't sleep. I waited for the call I knew was coming. Sure enough, 2 days later, Clara walked in with a bounce in her step. "David's coming home tonight," she sang. "We'll have a nice family dinner." A celebration. A farewell. I asked her, my voice still broken but usable. "Will you make that tea I like?" Her eyes flickered, then smiled. "Of course, Sister Eleanor." She thought I'd given up. She had no idea. Because tonight I had a surprise guest at that dinner table, and hidden eyes were finally watching. I sat at the head of the table like a silent queen awaiting execution. My neck brace itched. My muscles trembled with each movement. But my mind was sharper than it had been in months. Every detail of the plan had been set in motion. Clara hummed in the kitchen, her footsteps light, quick, excited. David came in moments later, hanging his coat with casual ease as if the house weren't steeped in poison. He bent down to kiss my cheek, cold, empty, and said, "Good to see you out of bed, Ellie." He hadn't called me Ellie in years. Clara placed the teapot on the table with a flourish. "Earl Grey, your favorite." She smiled. "David, pour for her, will you?" He did. I didn't touch it. Instead, I looked to the hallway and Claire stepped inside. Clara froze. "Oh, hi. What are you doing here?" Claire held up her badge. "I'm not just a nurse. I also work part-time with Adult Protective Services." Surprise. David stood, but Claire raised a hand. "Please don't. I have a few questions." Clara's voice hardened just slightly. "I think you're mistaken." "No," I rasped, lifting a trembling hand. "She's not." Claire opened her folder and pulled out a printed transcript. "You recorded this?" she asked me. I nodded. Claire hit play on her phone. Clara's voice echoed through the room. "Just mix it in the tea. She won't know. He doesn't care anymore. Once the will's in our favor, it's done." Silence. David's eyes widened. "What is this?" Clara paled. "That's fake. It's edited. She doesn't know what she's talking about." Claire stepped forward. "I also have another file, security footage from the pharmacy, where you picked up prescriptions Eleanor was never prescribed. And a signed statement from the housekeeper who quit last month said she saw you grind pills into her soup." "Lies," Clara shrieked. "She's trying to frame me, that old hag she." But it was too late. David looked at her. Really looked at her for the first time in months. "Is it true?" he whispered. "Clara, what did you do?" She dropped the teapot. Hot liquid splattered across the floor. I reached into my lap and pulled out the recorder. "Do you want to say that again?" I asked, voice quivering but clear. Clara ran. But 2 plainclothes officers were already waiting at the back door. She didn't even get past the porch. They took her screaming. David stood frozen. I looked at him. "You let her. You let her do it all." He opened his mouth, but there were no words, only shame. I turned to Claire. "Thank you." "You did it, Eleanor," she smiled. "You saved yourself." That night I slept in my bed, not the back room. I stared at the ceiling, tears sliding down my cheeks. Not from pain, not from grief, but because I was still here. And they were not. The house was quiet again. Not the kind of quiet that smothers you with isolation, but the kind that lets you breathe. David stayed, for a few days at least. He tried to talk, apologize. I didn't know he kept saying. I didn't think she'd actually. But I didn't respond. I let him sit in the silence he had helped build. Eventually he packed his bags and left. No goodbye. Fine by me. I hired new caregivers. People Claire recommended, people I could trust. The locks were changed. Clara's things were removed. The guest room became a craft room again. I had it painted yellow, warm, bright. Claire came by often after that, brought tea, real tea. We laughed. We cried once too when she confessed she'd nearly walked away the night I blinked that first SOS. "I almost missed it," she said. But something told me to look again. Something told me to fight again. The detective on the case told me later that Clara and David had already consulted with a lawyer to change my will. They had hoped I'd sign it once I was too weak to read. The paperwork was in progress. Just a few days later, it would have been final. I had come that close to dying in my own home, my own bed, by the hands of the woman who called me sister, and the man who once promised in sickness and in health. The recordings were submitted. Clara was charged with attempted murder, elder abuse, and fraud. She pled guilty. David was named as a complicit witness. No charges, but public shame. His career dissolved. I watched the trial from my laptop, Claire by my side, popcorn in our laps like it was some twisted movie. But it wasn't a movie, it was my life. And yet I didn't let them finish it. Months later, I took my first steps again. Small, shaky, but mine. My therapist cried. I did too. I still take meds, still live with pain, but I also live with purpose. I joined an online group for seniors who'd been abused by family. I shared my story. Some didn't believe me at first. Others had nearly identical tales. I wasn't alone. I think of Clara sometimes, of the way she smiled as she stirred my tea, called me sister. Eleanor tucked the blanket around my legs like I was a child. I wonder if she ever thought I'd outlive her betrayal. I did. And now when I look in the mirror, I see a woman who isn't just a survivor. I see someone who fought. And won. If you're reading this and you feel something is wrong, listen to that feeling. No matter your age, your body's limits, or your illness, your instincts are still powerful. I let myself be silenced because I thought I was weak. I trusted people because I was lonely. That nearly cost me my life. But you don't have to face it alone. There are people who will believe you, people who will help. The key is never stop fighting for your truth. Whether it's a whispered word, a blink, or a single message, speak. Protect yourself, document everything. And most importantly, you still matter. Even if someone calls you a burden, even if they smile while plotting your end. You are not invisible, you are not disposable, you are not done. You are still here. So stand, speak, survive.